Good morning everyone. This is Raghu, Assistant Professor of Biotechnology from SR and BGNR Government College. Come on. So today's topics are antibody structure and production of monoclonal antibodies by hybridoma technology. So antibodies are produced by B cells. So B cells we have discussed in the previous classes. B cells are of two types, plasma cells and memory cells. So memory cells play an important role in recognition of antigens when they re-entered into the body, whereas plasma cells are the cells that will produce antibodies. So we have already seen the primary lymphoid organs and secondary lymphoid organs, and also where B cells and T cells are produced. So primary lymphoid organs are the sites where B cell and T cell production and maturation happens, and secondary lymphoid organs are the sites where these B cells and T cells will come across the antigens. So the process of production of antibodies will be taking place at secondary lymphoid organs, where they will counteract the antigens that entered into the body. So in this class we will see the detailed structure of these antibodies that are produced by these plasma cells. So if you see the structure of antibody, so this is the structure of antibody. So this is given by Cabot and Teslius, two scientists. They have given the Y-shaped structure of this antibody. Sometimes it is also called as T-shaped structure. If you see the chemical composition of the antibody, these are called as glycoproteins. These are called as glycoproteins. So that means they contain proteinaceous part and non-proteinaceous part. And the non-proteinaceous part is the carbohydrate part. So they are called as glycoproteins. And 20% of the serum proteins, they occupy 20% of the serum proteins. And they will come under globular proteins. Globular proteins. So the Y-shaped structure or T-shaped structure is as shown in the figure. Basically the antibody has two heavy chains and two light chains. So you can clearly see the heavy chain and light chain. So there will be two heavy chains and two light chains. And you can see the loop-like structures, they are called as domain structures. They are called as domain structures. Whether it may be heavy or light chain, it is made up of completely amino acids. Since it is a glycoprotein, so it contains amino acids. So the domain-like structures are called as, the loop-like structures are called as domains. And these domains are present both in heavy chains and light chains. So these heavy and light chains are linked with each other with the help of disulfide bonds. So disulfide bonds are present that will stabilize the structure of antibody. You can clearly see the disulfide bonds that are present in between the heavy chains and also heavy chain and light chain. And the domain structures that are seen like a loop are stabilized by intrachain disulfide bonds. Intrachain disulfide bonds. If you differentiate the entire antibody structure, it will show two type of fragments. One is FAB, fragment antigen binding. The other one is FC, fragment crystallizable. So the FAB part will bind to the antigen. So epitope, antigen means epitope. And the region of binding of antigen present on antibody is called as paratope. So paratope is the region of antibody that will bind to the epitopic regions of the antigen. So if you see the biological activity, FC region is having the maximum biological activity. So the FC region is the region which will activate the other immunological cells. So FC region will be activating the other immunological cells. So that is the major differentiation of antibody structure: fragment antigen binding and fragment crystallizable. So this fragment crystallizable plays an important role in antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity also, which we have seen in earlier classes when we discussed about the cells of the immune system. So the antibody is a Y-shaped structure, is made up of two heavy chains and two light chains, and it is differentiated into FAB and FC region. So if you clearly go in detail, so there are two different regions in an antibody: constant region, variable region. So you can clearly see it is mentioned as V, variable, V for variable, C for constant. So in heavy chains, three domains are present in constant regions, hence they are called as CH1, CH2 and CH3. Constant heavy chain domain 1, constant heavy chain domain 2, constant heavy chain domain 3. And a VH region, variable heavy chain region. If you see the light chains also, they are divided into two regions: CL, constant light chain region, VL, variable light chain region. So there will be three constant regions in the heavy chain, one variable region. So light chains contains one variable region, one constant region. So this variable region varies based on the amino acid composition and also varies depending upon the antigen to be bound. So certain regions are present in these variable regions, so that regions are called as complementary determining regions. Complementary determining regions. These are also called as CDRs. These are also called as CDRs. So these CDRs are hyper variable. The CDRs are contains complementary determining regions contain hyper variable regions. So sometimes a single type of antibody can bind to multiple antigens. This is possible only because of hypervariable region variation in the variable region of the constant and heavy chain regions. So the variable regions of constant and light chains contain complementary determining regions which have hypervariable regions. So with these regions, a single antibody can bind to multiple antigens. That is possible. Sometimes a single antibody can bind to only single antigen, but there is a possibility of single antibody binding to multiple antigens. So that is possible because of this hypervariable regions present in variable regions of light chains and heavy chains. So these constant regions are constant, so there won't be any amino acid composition variation in these regions. So only those regions which are binding to antigens, that regions will fall under variable regions. So that will be varying time to time, and the type of antigen that is entering into the body. So that is the basic structure of the antibody. So there are intra-chain disulfide bonds in the domain structures and inter-chain disulfide bonds between heavy chains and heavy chain and light chain. So the region between heavy chain, light chain, you can clearly see a Y-shaped junction. So that is called as hinge region. In general, in this hinge region, the antibody will be flexible. So that means it will be moving like Y, like this. So it is flexible at hinge region. So this is the flexible portion of the antibody. So papain that is present in the papaya will cleave at this hinge region. Papain present at papaya will cleave at hinge region, disulfide bonds. So that is also shown in this figure. So if you see the domains CH1, CH2 and CH3, to the CH2 domain, the carbohydrate moieties are seen attached. The carbohydrate moieties are seen attached. As I already told, these antibodies are glycoproteins. So the antibodies are made up of proteins plus carbohydrates, and this carbohydrate moiety is seen attached at CH2 domain that is present in the heavy chain. So that is glycoprotein and the basic structure of the immunoglobulin. So classes of antibodies, there are 5 major classes of antibodies, and the difference between these antibodies is the amino acid composition that is present in the constant regions of heavy chain. So the variation in the amino acid composition that is present in constant chain regions classified the antibodies into 5 major classes: IgG, IgD, IgA, IgM and IgE. These are the 5 classes of antibodies. If you see the structure, IgG, IgD, IgA has the normal structure with 3 constant regions, 1 variable region, with 1 variable, 1 constant region in light chain as a normal antibody. But if you see the structure of IgM and IgE, they have an extra domain. They have an extra domain. You can see on the right top, IgM and IgE has an extra domain, and one disulfide bond will be less. One intra-chain disulfide bond that is in between heavy chains will be less because of the presence of extra domain. So IgM and IgE will be having 5 domains: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 constant, 1 variable. Light chains they contain 1 variable, 1 constant domain, but the heavy chains, they contain an extra domain in IgM and IgE. So 4 constant CH1, CH2, CH3, CH4 domains plus 1 variable heavy chain domain. So that is IgM and IgE. Whereas the IgG, IgA, IgD, they have normal antibody structure with 4 domains in the heavy chain. 1 variable, 3 constant domains, CH1, CH2, CH3. So that is the major difference. So the major difference and the classification is based on the variation in the amino acid composition and constant chain region of the heavy chain. So with this variation, they are classified into this 5 major classes of the antibody. So as I mentioned, IgM and IgE will be having an extra domain. So here is the diagram that is showing an extra domain IgE. So rest of the antibodies IgG, IgD, IgA will be having normal 4 domains. IgA and IgM, if you see, you can clearly see a pentameric structure of IgM where 5 antibodies are there in its structure. So IgM is the only antibody which will be existing in pentameric structure. And the 5 antibodies are joined together with the help of disulfide bonding, and a J chain, joining chain will be present. So you can clearly see in the left bottom, IgM is a pentamer having 5 antibodies in structure. All the 5 antibodies are connected with each other with the disulfide bond, and the J chain is present to stabilize the structure. If you see the structure of IgA, so general IgA, it is called a secretory component. It is present in saliva, tears, sweat, etc., and also in milk. And it will exist as monomer, dimer, and trimer. IgA can exist as monomer, dimer, and trimer. So IgM is pentamer, IgA is monomer or dimer or trimer. And this is also joined by J chain. A dimer is shown in this figure. J chain is joining, and a secretory component will be there attached to the IgA, which makes it to be secreted in milk, tears, saliva, etc. So IgG, IgE, IgD are monomers. IgM is a pentamer. IgA is dimer, trimer, or monomer. So this is the basic structure of the antibody. If you see the valency, so that means valency means the ability of an antibody to bind to antigen. It is called as valency. So each antigen can bind to each antibody can bind to 2 antigens. Each antibody can bind with 2 antigens. So the valency of an antibody is 2. But IgM, the valency is 10. So 5 antibodies are present, 5 into 2, 10. So at a time, IgM can bind to 10 antigens, antigenic proteins. And IgA, the valency varies. If it is a trimer, 3 is present, 3 to 6. Dimer, 2 into 2, 4. Monomer, it will be 2. So the valency, general valency of an antibody is 2. For IgM, it will be 10. For IgA, it may vary 2, 4, 6 based on the structure of IgA. If it is monomer, dimer, or trimer, it varies. So this is antibody basic structure of different types of antibody. So this slide shows the different 5 classes of immunoglobulins and some of their properties. So IgM pentamer, IgG monomer, IgA dimer, IgE again monomer, IgD again monomer. So the first property is heavy chain symbol. Heavy chain symbol. So IgM, it is mu. IgG, it is gamma. IgA, it is alpha. IgE, it is epsilon. IgD, it is delta. So mu for M, gamma for G, alpha for A, epsilon for E, delta for D. So the next property is number of antigen binding sites. That means valency. As I mentioned earlier, it is 10 for IgM, 2 for IgG, 4 for IgA, 2 for IgE, and IgD also 2. So that is valency of antibodies. So molecular weight, since it's a pentamer, IgM will be having more molecular weight. So rest of them will be 150,000 kilodaltons, 385 daltons, KD, kilodaltons, 385,000 daltons or 385 kilodaltons. For Ig it is 200 kilodaltons. For IgD it is 180 kilodaltons. When we see the percentage of antibody in the serum, so as I already mentioned, 20% of the total serum proteins, 20% will be the immunoglobulin composition. In that 20%, so this is the variation of different antibodies in the serum. IgM is present about 6% of total antibodies in the serum. It is present in 6%. IgG will be present 80%. IgA will be present 13%. IgE is 0.002%. And IgD, it will be 1%. So the most abundant antibody in serum is IgG because it is present in 80%. Next to that it is A, after that it will be IgM, after that IgD, and last will be IgE. So we have seen the IgE involvement in hypersensitivity reaction. So during hypersensitivity reaction, this IgE composition will be raised. It will be more than 0.002%. Since it is the antibody that plays an important role in hypersensitivity, its concentration will be always less in the serum when compared to other antibodies. So the next property is placenta, crosses placenta. So the widely and most widely asked question in entrance examination is which of the following antibodies will be crossing the placenta. So placenta is a structure between the mother and the growing embryo, and the only antibody that crosses placenta is IgG. So IgG is the class of antibody, only antibody that crosses placenta. No other antibodies will cross the placenta. So next one is complement fixation. So complement proteins are serum proteins. They play an important role in inflammatory response and also other immunological reactions, which we have discussed when we see in the cells of immune system. So this complement can be fixed by IgM, IgG only, IgG and IgM. So antibody mediated hypersensitivity, we have discussed in hypersensitivity reactions. So IgM and IgG are the two antibodies which can fix complement. So rest of the antibodies cannot fix the complement proteins in the serum. Fc binds to, so some Fc region we have seen during the structure of antibody in the previous slides. So some antibodies like IgG and IgE have the ability to attract other immunological cells. So these immunological cells, they will go and bind to the Fc regions of these antibodies. So that examples are IgG and IgE. So IgG molecules can bind to phagocytes. So phagocytes can go and bind to the Fc regions of the IgG molecules. Whereas mast cells and basophilic cells will go and bind to the Fc regions of IgE molecule. So that is why it is mediating hypersensitivity reactions, IgE antibodies. So only IgG and IgE will be having the ability to attract other immunological cells. So their Fc can bind to other immunological cells. Last property is function. So if you see the function of IgM, it's a pentamer. It is present on the B cell. It acts as a B cell receptor. So it is the antibody that is produced along with IgG in the primary immune response. The first antibodies that are synthesized in primary immune response will be IgM and IgG. Later slowly IgG comes down and IgG concentration will increase. So IgM is first synthesized. Next to that IgG will be synthesized. Slowly the concentration of IgM decreases, IgG will be increases. And it is the antibody that is produced against ABO blood grouping. Incompatible blood transfusions, the clotting that occurs during incompatible blood transfusions is due to IgM, which is a pentamer. So that is IgM. Next IgG, it is the abundant antibody in the secondary immune response. It plays an important role in opsonization. That means coating of antigen antibody complexes with complement proteins. It is called as opsonization. So coating of antigen antibody complexes with complement proteins is called as opsonization. So most abundant antibody in the secondary immune response, only antibody that will cross the placenta. So that is IgG. IgA, it is the most abundant antibody in the colostrum. So colostrum is the first formed milk after childbirth. So IgA is abundantly present in the colostrum. So it plays an important role in the transfer of immunity from mother to child through milk. So it is also abundantly present in mucus, it is also present in saliva, and it is also present in tears. So as we seen earlier, it has a secretory component that plays an important role in its secretion in mucus, tears, saliva and colostrum. So that is IgA. And IgE, as already known, it plays an important role in the hypersensitivity reactions. So IgE play an important role in type 4 hypersensitivity. And IgD, it is the antibody that is produced against toxoids, insulin, etc. So if any toxoid enters into the body or if you inject any insulin, recombinant insulin, the first antibody that is produced is IgD. So toxoids, haptens or insulin, the antibody that is produced is IgD. It is also present on the surface of the B cell. So these are the differences, variations among the different antibodies, properties and their function. So that is the structure of antibody and properties of the antibody. So the next topic is production of antibody by hybridoma technology. Production of antibody, that is monoclonal antibodies. Antibodies that are produced from single clone of cells. Antibodies that are produced from single clone of cells are called as monoclonal antibodies. So how these antibodies are produced are by the fusion of splenic cells and myeloma cells. By the fusion of splenic cells and myeloma cells. So first of all, you have to collect the antigen for which you are going to prepare antibody. So you will collect the antigen for which you are going to prepare the antibody. So you will inject or immunize that antigen, immunize a mice with that antigen for which your monoclonal antibody is to be produced. So your antigen will be given to that mice in 2 or 3 doses. After that, you will sacrifice the mice and you will collect the splenic cells. Why you collect the splenic cells? Splenic cells are the cells or secondary lymphoid organs which have proliferating B cells, and also the B cells will be having the ability to produce antibodies against your antigen that is injected to the mice. Hence, you are collecting the splenic cells. So the splenic cells are taken, and these splenic cells has the ability to produce antibodies for which you have given the antigen to the mice. So your antibody of interest are produced in the splenic cells. So that splenic cells are collected. So the splenic cells cannot survive in vitro conditions, under laboratory conditions. So you have to fuse these splenic cells with myeloma cells, which are called as tumorous cells that can survive in vitro conditions, in order to make your splenic cell immortal. So generally splenic cells are mortal, they will die after few seconds or minutes. In order to prevent the death of splenic cells, you will fuse with the myeloma cells. So your splenic cells have the ability to produce antibodies of your interest for your antigen, but they cannot survive outside, so they are fused with the myeloma cells. And another property is the splenic cells are HgpRTase positive, hypoxanthine guanine phosphoribosal transferase positive, whereas myeloma cells are negative. So for this you will see a small diagram here. This is called as de novo and salvage pathways of purines. De novo pathway means for every step there will be an enzymatic reaction. So this is starting with ribose 5-phosphate and finally to synthesis of GTP and ATP. So this is de novo, means step by step pathway the purine nucleotides are synthesized. In salvage pathway, it's an instant pathway where directly the nitrogen bases hypoxanthine or guanine are taken and ribose 5-phosphate will be added, so that they will be converted into nucleotide residues with the help of an enzyme called as hypoxanthine guanine phosphoribosal transferase. So you take nitrogen bases and you just add the ribose sugar with the help of HgpRTase, hypoxanthine guanine phosphoribosal transferase, and you will get the purine nucleotides IMP and GMP. So this is called as instant or salvage pathway, whereas the step-by-step synthesis of ATP or GTP is called as de novo synthesis. Myeloma cells, they lack HgpRTase. Myeloma cells, they lack HgpRTase. They will follow only de novo pathway. If you inhibit the de novo pathway, immediately these myeloma cells will die because they cannot synthesize the DNA. So that is the property. So if you inhibit the de novo pathway, since myeloma cells lack HgpRTase, they will die. So you remember this point. Now your splenic cells are fused with myeloma cells with the help of polyethylene glycol, a chemical component which is used for fusion, or Sendai virus, SENDAI, Sendai virus. Anything can be used. After the fusion, they are selected on HAT medium, hypoxanthine, aminopterin, thymidine. So aminopterin is the component which will be inhibiting the de novo synthesis. And hypoxanthine and thymidine are present. The splenic cells can synthesize purine nucleotides with the help of hypoxanthine and thymidine. Now a selection process happens in HAT medium that pure myeloma cells will die because of aminopterin in the medium that will inhibit the de novo synthesis of purines. And also splenic cells cannot grow in vitro, they will also die. Only hybridoma cells which are having HgpRTase positive and the characters of myeloma cells and the ability to utilize hypoxanthine and thymine in the medium will survive. Those hybrid cells are collected and further cloned, and the desired antibodies are collected from the clones, hybrid clones that are survived after the fusion. So this is called as production of monoclonal antibodies by hybridoma technology. So the clones, hybrid clones are collected from the HAT medium and they are further cloned, and the antibodies produced will be in the serum or in the medium that will be centrifuged and collected and used for various applications. So that is monoclonal antibody production. So when we see the applications of monoclonal antibodies, they have many therapeutic applications, diagnostic applications, clinical applications. So therapeutic applications, the monoclonal antibody are tagged with a drug and used to target the target cells. So these will go and bind to target cells and they release the drug at the site of target cell. So that is therapeutic applications. In cardiovascular diseases, in cancer, in other diseases, they are used as tracking agents and also killing the target cells. In diagnostic applications, in ELISA test kits, in Western blotting test kits, rapid test kits, all these test kits, these monoclonal antibodies are used. So these are also used in purification of drugs and etc. So these are the some of the names of monoclonal antibodies which are approved by FDA, which are in the market, which are used for different types of therapeutic uses. So that is applications of monoclonal antibodies. So that is production of monoclonal antibodies and applications of monoclonal antibodies and the structure of antibodies. So thank you for patiently listening about the topic.